Some people who enter the Demon Slaying Corp appear to have a supernatural trait about them which allows them to thrive as a demon slayer, be it either Himojima's overwhelming strength, which allows him to physically overpower demons even before he was a slayer, to Tengen Izui in his special shinobi training and lost ninja arts that give him unmatched technical skill compared to the rest of the pillars, and even Mitsuri had her unique muscular structure which allowed her to develop a brand new slaying style that only she could perform correctly. Though there was one pillar among them who seemed almost designed to become a demon slayer, this being the savage and scarred short-fused Santa Ana samurai, Sanemi Shinazugawa, the Wind Pillar. This video contains spoilers for the whole of Kimetsu no Yaiba up to its final arc, so if you want to avoid spoilers, you've been warned. Sanemi Shinazugawa is the acting wind pillar of the Demon Slaying Corp that was as talented as he is aggressive, with him mastering the whole of the wind-breathing slaying style. He also has a brother that recently became one of the newest members to the Demon Slaying Corp, this being Genya Shinazugawa, which causes Sanemi extreme frustration as he never wanted his brother to get involved in such a dangerous profession, which gives us a bit of a glimpse into his own personality, where he appears aggressive and angry on the surface. Deep down he does have a heart of gold, which does shine through from time to time. Though before we discuss that any further, let's first understand the meaning behind his name and design. Starting first with his design, which reflects his very outward aggressive nature, with a lot of his facial features being jagged lines. Along with this, his body and face are lined with scars that give off the impression that he is always consumed in conflict. Along with this, his outfit is both tinted a shade of green to match the color of his breathing style, but also lined with white belts that are wrapped around his ankle and waist, which are tightened to the point to give off the impression that he's very stiff or a tough individual himself, which is partly backed up by his exposed ab-filled chest, which he intentionally leaves open so that we can see all the hard work that he's put into his own body. But there are a lot of aspects to this design that don't shine through right away. It's meant to give you a first impression that is then given more context, but we'll discuss that more later in the video. Now, name-wise, Sanemi Shinazugawa's name is as tragic as his history, starting first with his family name, Shinazugawa, which when broken down is comprised of the characters that mean the Immortal River. But the starting two characters mean unfortunate death, which is likely in reference to his family's untimely and tragic slaughtering by the hands of their recently transformed mother. Though, unlike his brothers, Sanemi holds fully true to his name's meaning, as Sanemi, when broken down, means full truth. So altogether, his name means the full truth of the Immortal River. But the first character of his name could also be translated to fruit, so his name could also mean the fruit of the Immortal River, which could be in reference to peaches, which in Asian mythos is considered the fruit of the immortals, and could be why in some images he has a pinkish color to his hair. Though Sanemi, being the full truth of the Immortal River, plays into the fact that he is the only surviving member of his family, though he would have been just as much of a victim as the rest of his family if not for a rare blood type that he happened to be born with, this being referred to by demons as merchi, or rare-blooded, and it's a blood type that is extremely intoxicating to demons, like a powerful alcohol or hallucinogenic drug. Interestingly enough, going off what little we know about merchi, it's likely that the blood type in question is AB negative, as it's the rarest blood type in the world with less than 1% of the population reported to have it. And using his merchi blood, Sanemi was able to fight demons without the fear of having them drink his blood and recovering too much, because the more they did that, the less effective fighters they'd become. And this is even shown to work on the highest ranking demons out there. Though, if it was just his rare blood type, Sanemi wouldn't have gotten nearly as far as he is now. It's both due to the fact that he was born with an extremely tough body, but it was also thanks to all the hard work and effort he put into refining that body, along with him mastering a form of demon slaying style called Breath of the Wind, or wind breathing style. Wind breathing is one of the main 5 styles that derive directly from sun breathing. With those who are blessed with a natural affinity to wind breathing, they will find their Nichiran turns green when unsheathed, with Sanemi specifically having a serrated decal on his blade, filling out the negative space of the sword. This is likely done to show that Sanemi is savage in his fighting, which is reinforced by the fact that Sanemi, when using his wind-breathing styles, swings his blade hard enough to shatter his practice swords, while also referencing the fact that wind-breathing is the parent style to beast breathing, as Inosuke's sword somewhat reflects Sanemi's sword even though they've never met. Along with this, Sanemi's sword hilt seems to be a 8-winged pinwheel, which is assumedly in reference to the memorial sentiment of a pinwheel in Japan, which is often used to pay respect to young children who have died or stillborn children, which when paired with a Jizo statue is supposed to guide the souls of the children into the afterlife safely, which in turn reinforces Sanemi's connection to his slain family, carrying a constant reminder of their early deaths with him on his person at all times, which especially hurts him as after his father died, him and Genya became the men of the household, so he was always carrying that responsibility. Now he's just turned it physical. Along with this, wind breathing is a style that focuses on powerful rotating slashes and slices that appear to be in direct influence to a real-life sword fighting style called Jingen Ryu, which is a style that normally emphasizes a swordsman holding their blade in the dragonfly stance, which is a high raised position with the hilt near the face, and when they strike they make a loud kia on each hit. Now, wind breathing style, like all other styles in Demon Slayers, has multiple forms or katas, which must be mastered to use wind breathing to its fullest. And each of these katas have a hidden meaning to their name that can either be applied to Sanemi himself or the story it's being used in. So let's go through each attack and explain their meanings. Starting first with the first kata, Dust Whirlwind Cutter, which is an attack where the user will raise a blade in the dragonfly stance and then dash forward while slashing in a cyclone-like pattern, creating effectively a horizontal whirlwind of blades. The name itself is likely pulled directly from the natural phenomenon known as a dust devil, which are strong, well-formed, and relatively short-lived whirlwinds, which while normally harmless, on rare occasions can cause damage and even result in deaths. Then next we have the second kata, Claw's Purifying Wind, in which the user will lift their sword up to the right, above their head, and then unleash 4 vertical slashes down at the enemy like a tiger's claw. The name itself comes from the purifying wind of the god Fujin, which is described as a green-skinned and peach-haired colored demon, which Senmei seems to have taken influence from with his design, as his outfit is green-tinted and his hair is somewhat peach-colored, at least in the manga. And on top of this, one of Fujin's most defining abilities is an intoxicating breath it can unleash that is used in a similar fashion to Sanemi's own blood, since as soon as it leaves his body, it causes the demons who smell it to start acting up. Along with this, Fujin is also depicted as wearing leopard or tiger print a lot of the time, so that's where the claws come from as well. Then next we have the third kata, Clean Storm Wind Tree, which is an attack that unleashes a whirlwind of slashes around the user's body that they can use to defend themselves from oncoming attacks while also slicing at their surroundings. The name of the attack itself is comprised from the characters of Fuju, which is a term that can both mean trees blowing in the wind and thinking about one's deceased parents, coming from the belief that spirits can end up living in trees and speak through the breeze, which can tie directly into Sanemi's own character and how he went down the path into becoming a demon slayer. Following that up, we have the fourth kata, Rising Dust Storm, which the user will create several slashes above them to attack any descending opponent. The name is again in reference to dust devils, but also uses the kanji for rising, which means shoujo, and is a type of Japanese sea spirit that is constantly red-faced and described as orangutan-like, which both connects with wind-breathing style's influence of Jingen Ryu, as the kias of the sword style are described as monkey-like screams, but also Sanemi, as the shoujo has a deep fondness for alcohol, and Sanemi's own Mirachi blood gives off the same properties of a powerful alcohol. Then we have the fifth kata, Cold Mountain Wind, in which the user creates several circular slashes in a downward arc that decrease in size as they get away from the target. This name is in direct reference to the chilly wind that comes down from the mountains during the winter and kills all the plants around it, which has been visualized in multiple forms of art as a black spiral, as seen best in a famous painting of the Orochi. Then next we have the sixth kata, Black Wind Mountain Mist, which is an attack where the user rotates their body into an uppercut-like motion while unleashing a tornado of slashes. The name itself is also a callback to the Orochi winds, as well as just the imagery of a storming mountaintop full of black misty clouds. Then we have the seventh kata, Gale, Tengu's Gust, which is an attack where the user leaps towards their target, rotating in the air while swinging their blade to generate gale forces of cutting winds that can shred their target. This is in direct reference to the yokai, the Tengu, who is a powerful and aggressive spirit which are able to let out a blast of powerful winds from their feathers that could kill the average man, which in turn relates perfectly to Sanemi. Then we have the eighth kata, Primary or Original Gale Slash, which the swordsman leaps into the air and swings their blade blade in a fashion that generates a circular torrent of slashes that mimic a tornado. This attack's name is likely in reference to the original gale or the original wind located within the bag of the god Fujin, as it combines together the properties of most of his attacks, specifically the 2nd, 5th, and 6th kata. Along with this, it being used as the final strike against the last Upper Moon demon might be in reference to how Fujin and Raijin are mystically involved in the divine wind typhoon that protected Japan from the Mongolian invasion in 1274 and 1281. And then finally we have the 9th kata, Idaten Typhoon, which is an attack where the user does a backflip into the air and while upside down, unleashes a powerful gust of circular slashes that mimic the wind itself, almost like an upside down mix of the 7th and 8th kata. The name itself is in direct reference to Idaten, or Skanda, a bodhisattva and powerful general who chose to protect the teachings of Buddhism instead of reaching enlightenment. He was known for his incredible speed and powerful warrior-like status, being able to run with the wind. And because of its usage on Muzan in the final battle that helped contain him, it was likely given this name as a connection to Idaten's protecting the foundations of enlightenment, the same way Sanemi was protecting the future of humanity. Though Sanemi's skills doesn't just stop at his wind breathing, or his rare blood, he also has insane combat sense, being able to change up his style on the fly, shown when not only does he pick up his brother's dropped sword with his foot to make a sneak attack, but also when he picks up his brother's double-barreled shotgun and proceeds to use it about as effectively as he was. In fact, a lot of his movements can be chalked up to his amazing muscular control, meaning that he can tighten his muscles to hold things or bend in such a way that they can close up and prevent fatal wounds from bleeding out. And this is just one of the skills that he developed to help him utilize his blood's potent power. Sanemi has fully honed his body to make himself the perfect demon-killing machine. And this body was both a blessing that allowed him to live through any obstacle, but also a curse that made him always the lone survivor, stemming all the way back to his life before demons. As Sanemi was the oldest of 7 children, and grew up with an abusive father that he had to protect both his mother and brothers from, as he would beat them on the regular. Though his father ended up getting stabbed by a man who had a grudge with him later in life, this left the house with no protector figure, and Sanemi took up that role alongside Genya. Then, life took a sudden and sharp turn, as his mother would find herself infected with demonic blood, turning her into a wild beast that slaughtered her own children. Sanemi made a tough decision that night and tackled his mother out of the house and fought her with a wood-cutting blade. This is the fight where he received the large scars that are strewn all across his body and face. Though, this fight also made him a parent of his blood, as after being cut, the blood's intoxicating effect triggered, causing the mother to fall into basically a drunken coma, which left her unmoving for the coming sunrise, leaving just him and Genya left alive in his family. But due to the shock of the whole situation, Genya, not fully aware of the situation and caught up in the adrenaline, called Sanemi a murderer, which in turn killed that remaining familia bond that they had at the time, leaving Sanemi all alone for the first time. It's from here that Sanemi would describe his world as losing its color, everything becoming more black and white. He would then go on to abandon his brother and vanish into the mountains with the express purpose of killing as many demons as humanly possible. Being unaware of what a Nichiren was, he would do so in just the old-fashioned way, using himself as live bait, then overwhelming them, chinning them up at any high place, and letting the sun dissolve them. This plan was basically suicide by Sanemi's own description, until he met Masachika Kumino, a slayer in training. And it's from here that Sanemi would go on to be inducted into the Demon Slaying Corp, teaming up with Masachika and over his years watching many of his comrades die. But Masachika was always there for him, until the two would end up going after the first Lower Moon demon of their time. Together, the two were able to kill it, and this helped Sanemi achieve status as a pillar, but sadly, the fight against the demon would be Masachika's last, with him ending up dying in Sanemi's arms, leaving him, yet again, another lone survivor. Though from here, he would begin training harder and harder to ensure that he would be able to protect people and slay demons. Though his training and insistence on being stronger would leave him in a bad relationship with a lot of the other members of the Corps, though this was also partly due to his aggressive personality. But if there was one member who he hated, it was his foil, Giyu, disliking him not only for isolating himself from the group, but especially hating his defense befriending of a demon. This spurred on into a full-on rivalry between Giyu, which would be developed on during the two's interaction in the story. They are the hot and cold of the Demon Slaying Corp, though Sanemi would continue his work until his brother ended up joining the Corps and confronting him. Genya did so with the intentions of apologizing for his actions that night, and Sanemi blew him off, causing Genya to recount that he has been working hard and eating demons to help him. This enraged Sanemi. To see his brother so willingly and casually throw his life into danger causes him to furiously attack, but ultimately they got away, until Muzan himself appeared and the Demon Slaying Corps led an assault on his Infinity Fortress. And it's during this arc that Sanemi, along with Himejima, Muchiro, and Genya, would all ultimately end up going after and defeating the highest ranked Upper Moon Demon together. It was also here that Sanemi would be pushed to the point that he would unlock his own Slayer mark, this coming in the form of a pinwheel-like design on his face, specifically on the cheek that his mother would stroke to calm him, which likely plays into the same symbolic meaning of his Nichiren's hill, since the mark appears after his flashback to both the death of his parents and the death of his partner in demon slaying, Masachika, which all came after he witnessed his brother nearly die. This is Sanemi going full on into rage mode, and fighting continuously even after he is unconscious. And playing into his rivalry with Giyu, his mark not only appears in a similar spot, but also appears right after Giyu had unlocked his, so the two were constantly playing off each other in a sense. But like any achievement in his life, it comes bundled with tragedy, as even though they defeated the highest ranking Upper Moon Demon, Genya would end up being fatally wounded and ended up dying in Sanemi's arms, losing the last remaining member of his family. But he didn't have time to grieve. He picked up his blade and brought the fight to Muzan himself, and it's here that Giyu and Sanemi would find a common ground with each other, clashing their swords together to create two Crimson Nichirans, which help in the efforts of slaying the Demon King himself, though the fight would put him into a near-death state where he would be able to see the spirits of his family again, specifically his mother. And when his kind soul finally came to the surface, he reached out to embrace his mother. His father's hand gripped him, tossing him back into the world of the living, remarking that he should be lucky to have inherited his father's toughness. And it's in this moment that Sanemi realizes that he became the man he grew to hate. Someone who was aggressive, hateful, and terrible at protecting those around him. He was his father. And then he woke up. And yet again, he was alone, as all of the other pillars had died in the battle against Muzan, all except for one, Giyu, the man he disliked the most. Though, with Muzan defeated, Sanemi felt a lot of his burden lifted. His family's death, his comrades' death, and all of his hard work led to him creating a peaceful future for everyone. And during the disbanding of the Demon Slaying Corp, him and Giyu fully bonded over paying their respects to their new leader, both taking a very brotherly role in congratulating the kid on all of his hard work. Along with this, Sanemi would make amends with Nezuko, and in doing so, would not only see his brother in her, but his mother as well. Sanemi, for as cruel as he was, deep down was doing as he said, working hard to protect everyone. He was a soft soul in a rough body, a scarred smile. Even his brother saw past this part, calling him the kindest person in the world, because Sanemi needed to bottle up these emotions for his family's safety, ultimately sacrificing his own childhood so that they could have theirs, which is likely why Sanemi is into a lot of childish hobbies, such as cat watching and beetle collecting, along with his favorite food ending up being ohagi, which is a red beaned and sweet rice-based dish, which is considered to be childish in nature as it is a sweet. Overall, Sanemi is a great character within the whole of Kimetsu no Yaiba, someone who decided to put the whole world on his shoulders, and tragically, even in his best efforts to protect everyone who is important to him, let those close to him slip through his fingers. And sadly, due to the curse of the mark, Sanemi likely won't live past 25, giving him roughly 4 years left in his life to do with as he wishes. But in the new era of peace that Sanemi helped create, he likely settled down and lived the life that he wanted to see his family live. And in the future, where he is fully reincarnated with said family, we can say that he was finally given the peaceful end that peace-seeking man deserved. And if you enjoyed this video and want to support me and my channel for the future, I have a Patreon at patreon.com/MediNotTheBadGuy. Patreon is a very helpful tool that helps keep this channel flowing as well as it does. And if you want to see a wind of change in society, you can do so by buying a copy of Shimonetta, A Boring World Where the Concept of Dirty Jokes Doesn't Exist at buyshimonetta.com.